Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the crypto starship. Its mission, to explore new technologies, to seek out new life in the crypto universe, to boldly go where no blockchain has gone before.
Hey guys, this is Captain Eric.
Captain Derek.
How's it going, everybody? Lieutenant Plue is on vacation. He has left the starship. He will be back in the future in a future episode, hopefully within 3 or 4 episodes from now. So for today, it's just Captain Eric and Captain Derek take you on the mission through the crypto universe. Hey, Captain Derek, how's it going over there?
It's good. It's good. How are you doing over there?
Great. I heard that we both have some big conferences coming up. You're doing the Vietnam Blockchain Week in a few days, right?
Yeah, that's starting next Thursday, and people are starting to trickle in town already. We just went to the Bitcoin meetup, which is really the crypto meetup here, and met some pretty interesting people.
That's great. And how long is the blockchain event in Vietnam?
The Vietnam Blockchain Week lasts for 2 days.
That's great. I love how they call it the Blockchain Week.
Yeah.
I guess there's other events surrounding it, but the main conference is 2 days long. That's the Vietnam Blockchain 2-day event. That's what I'm going to change the name to.
Vietnam Blockchain Thursday.
Yeah, and here in Denver, we also have the Day of Crypto, Day for Crypto coming up on the 10th. So another 9 days-ish. We're going to be doing that. It's very specific. It is 1 day of crypto, the day for crypto. Not the week for crypto, but the day for crypto.
That is a more accurate description.
Yes. The marketers on this one wanted to keep it real. So they have a great selection of people coming, Polymath's going, Salt, Shapeshift, a few other different companies that are based here in Colorado will be at the event. And I think it will be quite interesting. It should be more intimate than the Vietnam Blockchain Week, so probably a lot more opportunity to talk to people. But I still think really, really strong. Really, really strong.
Awesome. Awesome. You know, one thing that was a little weird about tonight's meetup is I've noticed that I'm meeting a lot of people who are starting exchanges.
Yeah, I think that's the thing to do right now.
Yeah, I think I've met 3 or 4 people separately in the last couple of weeks who are starting an exchange.
So they are going to a GitHub somewhere that says exchange for cryptocurrency that's open source, taking that code and modifying it and applying it to a new country. That's the new way of the crypto universe.
Right. Or some of them are licensing an exchange platform. Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely, I don't know if a gold rush is the way to put it, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of people working on that project.
Yeah.
Solving different problems, but yeah.
I completely have seen that as well. I was at a meetup in Boulder yesterday, and it was a great group of individuals, a lot of developers. I think there was probably 50 or 60 people. Really awesome community and people working on all types of different projects in the crypto space, Gitcoin and Market Protocol and some others that are out here in Colorado. So there's actually a vibrant community out here as well. So there's probably about 3 or 4 meetups every week between Denver and Boulder. So I have to keep my calendar opened over the next couple months to make sure I can connect with the different communities. And we should be hosting some conferences out here in the future in Boulder, and then some smaller meetups, 100 to 200 people in Denver. So super excited about it. I think we're both in a really good, vibrant community in the world when it comes to blockchain.
Yep. And between the two of us, we got the whole planet covered and the rest of the cryptoverse.
But we still have a lot to explore in the crypto universe. And that's a perfect time to transition into what we're going in today. Since Lieutenant Plue is not here, we won't be taking off, but we will be going into privacy coins today. Is that right,
Boom.
Captain Dirk?
Privacy coins.
Boom. Give us a little background on what today's episode entitles.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about what privacy coins are and what they're used for. And then we'll talk a little bit about the different major privacy coins, the pros and cons, when you might use Monero over ZCash and why different people like different tokens. And then we can talk about the future of privacy coins and where we think the industry as a whole is going to go, where upcoming technologies in the major blockchains, how that might impact the privacy coin space and all that good stuff.
Awesome. That sounds great. I think we should, as we jump into this, let's get to the very, very core of privacy coins, where they first came from, where they evolved from. I think it's very important just to let you guys know anything on this podcast that we discuss is part of history and what's going on in the world. We don't recommend anything that we specifically talk about here doing any of it. So if you hear any references to the dark web, which you definitely will, we're not recommending
stuff you should not do.
We're not recommending you get involved with this at all. We're just bringing up what has happened in the past, what is happening, and why certain things exist. Awesome. Captain Derek, do you want to jump into basically the history of privacy coins, where they evolved from, where they are today, and then we can jump into the different ones that are currently available to the masses?
Yeah, definitely. So one funny thing is that Bitcoin was originally kind of thought of as a privacy coin. When Satoshi Nakamoto first dreamed up Bitcoin, his thought was, we need a decentralized private currency that's untraceable. And people thought that Bitcoin for a long time was private. And today, what we know is that Bitcoin is really not private. It's kind of the opposite of private, because every single transaction you make is recorded in history forever and open to anybody to look at. So law enforcement actually loves Bitcoin because it is extremely traceable.
Yes.
Yes. And it is, as people started realizing this, that they started creating privacy coins with the intention of making transactions untraceable, not only untraceable, but to not know the transaction amount, not know who sent it, not know who received it, and not be able to tag any specific token as a black market token, or, for example, if not be able to tag any specific token as being different than other tokens. So if you look at a Ethereum hack or NEM hack, there was a NEM hack of $500 million about a month ago. And what they did was they tagged every token that was hacked and said that these were hacked tokens and they can't be spent anymore. And what a lot of these privacy coins do is they make it impossible to tag any specific coins. All coins are identical, and it's impossible to see who sent it, where it was sent, how much was sent, whether a transaction was sent at all. So it was kind of, as people started realizing the immutability and the publicness of the blockchain ledger caused problems for privacy, that people started developing these other currencies.
Completely. And when we first saw the examples of Bitcoin being private, people thought it was private. What were they mainly using Bitcoin for back in those days?
Buying drugs.
The dark web. And this is something that's been an ongoing conversation and kind of the thorn in the crypto community side, right? So people that don't understand cryptocurrency or blockchain, they immediately refer to Silk Road or the drug market on the dark web and FBI cases that have happened in the past. And that's what they kind of believe cryptocurrency is for those that are uneducated in the space. And it constantly provides an interesting talking point when you are talking about blockchain with a family member or a friend or someone that's not in the community. Most of them bring up that specific situation because it's what they remember the most. And a lot of these privacy coins, after Bitcoin was found to be unprivate in many ways, evolved from that, I believe, in many aspects. Evolved from the usage on the dark web, and they're not necessarily being leveraged for that today. There's probably always a case of it being so, but there's many other use cases for these coins now. But I believe that's the history of where a lot of this came from, and continues to be a thorn in my side, at least when I'm trying to have an educational conversation with an individual that's not versed in the cryptocurrency space.
Okay, so I totally agree with you. I think the future of blockchain technology is much brighter than its past, and its past, to a certain extent, its past being its drug market days, to a certain extent still kind of limits the perception of blockchain and kind of causes that stain. That said, I do think we should give those drug markets credit in the sense that they were the first use case of Bitcoin, and they really created the first marketplace for Bitcoin. Before Bitcoin, there was no demand at all for this product. And people were walking around saying, well, you can buy pizza with it if you spend a few 100,000 Bitcoins, or you can buy some plates on this e-commerce site that decided to take Bitcoin. But there was really no use and no marketplace where people were actively buying and selling Bitcoin until a market was established, because people needed to buy and sell these Bitcoins in order to buy drugs. And, that's not the most honorable or great way for a revolutionary technology to launch. But if that had never happened, that market may never have been established, and it could have just been a footnote in history.
Yeah, and we might not be where we are today. So I completely agree that it might not have been the best approach to building a community around Bitcoin, but it definitely helped in the evolution of the cryptocurrency community. And there's still dark web markets available today, and many stories of founders of marketplaces either dying in Thailand or going to jail in the United States, and other examples of founders that are constantly being put on a pedestal when it comes to this space. So I completely agree with you, Captain Derek. I think that if these things did not exist, we wouldn't be necessarily where we are today when it comes to adoption. So that's definitely helpful. But the evolution of cryptocurrency and where we need to go with it definitely needs to disassociate ourselves with the dark web over time in order to continue to get legitimacy, continue to allow positive regulation in the space, continue to allow adoption.
Agreed.
Over time. And that kind of transitions well into where we are today with privacy coins. What is available today? What are the key privacy coins? What do they offer to the community, and how they can potentially be leveraged?
Great. Yeah,
you want to jump
totally.
into that?
So there's two main privacy coins that kind of dominate the conversation, Monero and ZCash, and to a certain extent Dash as well. And then there's two more modern ones, Bitcoin Private and Lightning Network, that I think are worth talking about as well. So as a general overview, Monero is generally considered to be the most secure privacy coin. It's the least traceable. It's been around for a long time. It's been peer reviewed. It has multiple privacy elements to it. So Monero uses one-time addresses. So every time you send funds to someone, that address is created and then it is never used again. So you can't tie someone's address back to their funds. And when someone creates a new transaction, they're signing a signature at the same time as a bunch of other people. So nobody can tell who's actually creating a transaction. So basically, both when you're receiving a transaction and when you're creating a transaction, it's nearly impossible to tie that back to an individual address or individual key. So in that way, Monero is extremely private and generally considered the most private coin, which is why most of the darknet markets use Monero as their method of transacting. The downside of Monero being that it is slow and expensive. It's about $3 per transaction, and their block confirmation times is about 2 minutes. So that's the most popular one. ZCash is the second one, which is much cheaper. It has a much better reputation in the sense that it's done by college professors, and these people get invited to conferences, and it's not the darknet market coin. So it's more of it's more of a politically sound privacy coin where people who are saying we want to have privacy because this is our right, because we don't want the government spying on us, etc. They're using this coin rather than Monero. Monero's, I guess, the shady twin brother of ZCash.
Hey, Captain Derek, so how does ZCash work?
So ZCash works using a type of cryptography called zero-knowledge proofs. And the algorithm is called ZK snarks, also known as zero-knowledge succinct non-interactive argument of knowledge. Very rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, that's very easy.
Very easy.
Let me just note that down really quick.
Great. So basically, one way to think about it is, how can I prove that I know something without telling you exactly what the thing is that I know? So the analogy that I've often seen used to explain this is, imagine that you're colorblind, which is easy for me because I actually am colorblind. Not all colors. I don't see in black and white, but I am colorblind. So imagine that I'm colorblind, which I am.
Okay, I'm imagining that you're colorblind,
Okay.
Derek.
Great. So I'm holding two balls in front of me. Let's say one ball is red and one ball is yellow, and I can't tell the difference. But you tell me that these two balls are a different color, but I don't believe you. Now, how can you demonstrate to me that these two balls are in fact different colors without telling me what color the balls are? And one answer, the answer that the cryptography community often uses, is if I hold the two balls behind my back and I one at a time show you these balls, you can tell me every single time that I've changed the ball because you can see that it's a different color, even though I can't see what the color is, and you don't tell me what the color is. So this is an analogy for proving that money was moved from someone who used to have the money without showing the network who actually received the money or who sent the money. Basically, it's a way of saying that, oh, this is indeed true that this money was sent, and this is indeed true that this money is now in this person's account and not in this person's account. But the fact that who sent who what money is not revealed in the network. Instead, you use a zero-knowledge proof to demonstrate that the state of the network is correct.
Got it. So let me just go into that analogy really quick. I'm holding a red ball and a blue ball in front of my face. And you, Derek, who is now not colorblind, are looking at looking at these balls in front of me and saying, okay, they are different, but I don't know that because I'm colorblind. And I put the red and yellow ball behind my back. I switch it around and I know which ball I move to which hand. So each time I pull it back out, I pull a ball back out. You'll be able to identify which ball it was because of the color, and you can see the color, but I can't, proving that they are different and that the color is different to me who is holding it.
Right. Without knowledge of what the colors are.
Got it. Perfect. Because I can't see the color. Got it. That makes complete sense to me. Awesome.
Great. And so 2 quick things on ZCash. Number 1, there's a great episode by Planet Money where they interview the founder of ZCash on how he actually created it. And there's a really interesting thing about ZCash, which is that it's actually created from a seed. So there's a string of characters and numbers that is used as basically the birthing of Zcash comes from this seed. And anyone who has this seed is actually able to print unlimited Zcash. So they go through a very complex way of demonstrating that nobody has the seed by having a bunch of people generate parts of it in separate places in the world using computers that have never been connected to the internet. So it's a very interesting episode. Definitely check that out. And number 2, Bitcoin Private, which is a new Bitcoin fork that just launched, uses the same algorithm, ZK-SNARK, as Zcash.
Interesting. I heard a random story. I don't know if it's true that these guys came up with the idea at Burning Man and then went off and built the Zcash coin. So that's quite interesting. Don't know if it's true, but that's something that circulates in the community as well. Got it. So those are the 2 highlighted coins right now. And I completely agree when it comes to your distinction between both and the way that they're positioned in the community. Monero is definitely leaning towards the dark web as more markets leverage that, while Zcash has a more ongoing, progressive view on how the world should work and why you should have privacy when it comes to what you hold, your finances, and other elements. So I completely agree in your distinction. Now, outside of those 2 coins, what do you think about these other privacy coins that are coming up? So there's a lot of privacy coins that continue to grow and blossom in the space. I know, for example, Deep Onion is one that says it leverages the Tor protocols and networks in order to keep your privacy. And there's a bunch popping up. What do you think about those types of coins coming into existence today? Do you think they're needed? Do you think they make any sense? Do you think they have any value long term? Or do we see that consolidation happening to Zcash and Monero and potentially Bitcoin and Ethereum in the future, which we'll talk about in a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think not really. I don't really think that more privacy coins is the answer, because with a privacy coin, you really want just one result. You want money to get from point A to point B without people knowing. And to a large extent, that is already solved. And having more ways of solving the same problem really doesn't make the world. Not only does it not make the world a better place, but you're just not creating new value, right? You're not creating something valuable from something that didn't exist. I think the problem that Zcash solves, which is Monero is expensive, is a valid, new use case of privacy, having something that's cheaper way of sending a private transaction. But once you have a way that's cheap and a way that's extremely private, probably the next thing you want is a cheap way that is extremely private, which I don't think there is anything that is considered to be as private as Monero that is also really cheap at the moment. But yeah, for the most part, I think we're really splitting hairs at this point. We're not creating revolutionary new solutions. We're just kind of making iteratively better things while potentially leaving cryptographic holes because these are untested algorithms.
Completely agree with that. And I think people are just trying to jump onto the overall privacy bandwagon and get their share by coming up with a new coin because it was the focus in 2017 and 2016. But I think overall we need to start pushing past just the concept of a privacy coin, right? Is there any actual benefit to having a privacy coin in the future when coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum will continue to get more and more private over time? Just wondering what your thoughts are on that and as we move forward in this area.
Yeah, I think that's a good transition into, you mentioned the Onion project, or I don't remember the exact name, but using the Deep Onion, yes. So using the Onion technology, and for listeners who are new to the dark world of the dark web internet, the Onion technology is a way of routing internet data packets using the Tor network. So the Tor network is how you access all these dark web markets where you can get to internet websites that are not, your IP address is never known to the people who are accessing it because your IP bounces off multiple nodes in different parts of the world. So using a similar technology to wrap around payments, it's called onion routing. And so tying back into what you asked about the future of privacy coins, so Lightning Network actually uses onion routing as part of its feature set. So the Lightning Network is a improvement protocol to the Bitcoin network. It's what's called a second layer above the blockchain. So it doesn't actually change the way that Bitcoin works. Instead, it adds functionality on top of the Bitcoin architecture. And the way Lightning networks work is it creates a separate channel of transactions. So let's say that I wanted to send Eric $10. Today, the way that would work is I would send that transaction on the blockchain, and it would have to get confirmed by all the other nodes, and then it becomes a unchangeable part of the blockchain. And every time from that point forward, when someone sets up a new node, they have to process all the transactions that ever happened. So it's an extremely slow way to do things. So with the Lightning Network, what happens is me and Eric create a separate channel, and I can send money to Eric and he can send money to me infinite number of times. And only once we settle the transactions to the blockchain does it get written onto the block. Now, when you start adding more people to these channels, so instead of just me and Eric, now it's me, Eric, and Ethan. Now it's me, Eric, Ethan, and Eric's mom, me, Eric, Ethan, and my brother. And now we have a separate channel with, say, 10 people, and we're all sending money back and forth to each other. And only once the state is confirmed, we write it back to the block. Now, this sub-channel is going to use what's called onion routing, where what I send to Eric is encrypted. So Ethan can't see what I'm sending to Eric. It can only see that I'm sending Eric something. And then Eric sends Eric's brother another transaction. And again, Ethan can't see what that amount is. And Ethan also can't see who the intended recipient is, right? So if I send something to Eric and Eric sends something to Ethan and Ethan sends something to Susan, the intended recipient of the money could have been Eric the whole time. And there was just a penny that was passed on to each other transaction. So it's basically by using onion routing so that data is only passed from one node to the other in an encrypted way where you can't see the intended recipient or the amount. It becomes very difficult to track, especially since you can't really see what those transactions were once it's settled onto the blockchain. So Lightning Network is going to be fairly private once it becomes a real thing on the Bitcoin network.
Now, this comes into two questions here, Derek, for you. First of all, when it comes to the timeline for Lightning Network, and I know it's been talked about for a long period of time over the past couple of years, where do we see as a community this falling into play? Is it scheduled for 2018? Is it something that we should see implemented soon? And does it bring full privacy to the blockchain or to the coin?
So Lightning Network's already deployed, actually. I think there's about 2,000 Lightning Network nodes right now. So you can actually go and use the Lightning Network today. The developers don't recommend that you do that. Number one, because it's not really ready yet, and it's entirely possible you'll lose your money. But also, number two, because it creates load on the network, and it makes it difficult for them to go back and change the state of the blockchain. So if today $100,000 runs through the Lightning Network, it makes it much harder for developers to say, oh, we actually wanted to change the way this works on the blockchain. Let's change the code and go backwards. Because of the fact that it's handling real money now, developers want to have these live nodes so they can start testing things, but it actually makes their job harder. And they're actually asking people to please stop using the Lightning Network, which is a little bit funny. But anyway, it's live now. It's not yet had mass adoption. They don't want mass adoption right now. And even when it's ready, it's not going to be adopted by a lot of the network because it's not going to fit in with, say, Coinbase that needs to KYC all their customers and know where their money's going. Having a private way of sending money that they can't trace is actually worse for their business model from a compliance perspective.
So with that said, do you see this actually taking over the space of Monero and ZCash and privacy coins in general, or as an alternative because we never will be able to fully adopt it because of the reasons you just outlined?
So there's definitely security flaws to Lightning Network. The main one being if you can take control of a number of the different nodes, you can start building some traceability back. So as we mentioned earlier, nodes obscure the payment channels that are, right, there's an incoming and an outgoing payment channel. But if you own half the nodes in the network, it's not hard for you to figure out where the flow of money's going. So there's definitely privacy concerns with the Lightning Network. The way I'm seeing it is that the Lightning Network is good enough if you just want to have privacy, right? Because if you know my Ethereum address, you can watch all the transactions going in and out of my wallet, and there's really nothing I can do about it because Ethereum is a public blockchain. With the Lightning Network, people can't really see your transactions that are happening, and if you just want to be a private person, you're not doing anything illegal, I think the Lightning Network pretty much covers the privacy base. If you are doing something like buying stuff on the darknet markets, I think the Lightning Network is probably not going to be good enough, at least for the foreseeable future in the next 6 months to 2 years. I think people who are engaging in those activities are still going to be gravitating towards Monero, which is truly as untraceable as cryptography has been able to get so far.
Awesome. So I think that's a great summary of the current space and what 2018 is going to look like. We will continue to see privacy implemented in some of the major coins that exist, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on over time. Does that necessarily mean they're going to be as safe as Monero or as ZCash? That's to be determined. I don't think so anytime soon. And the fact that developers still don't want individuals to leverage the Lightning Network kind of puts us at a standstill in those sections right now. And we're going to have to see how they evolve over time. I also agree with you that new privacy coins like Deep Onion are not what we need. It's not something that is going to add value to the blockchain community over time. Working on the current blockchain protocols that exist and evolving them, I think, is a better use of our effort in this space specifically. So if there are coins that are popping up that are privacy focused and you read their white paper and they're talking about how they're better than X, Y, and Z, most likely, first of all, they have not been tested by the community to an extent that they can actually validate what they're saying compared to the coins that have a lot of community and effort behind them. And over time, like mentioned, I think there's going to be more and more effort into the bigger blockchains that have more use cases already. So we should see that evolution over time. And I think 2018 will really define where we're going with this space. And as a good friend of mine said, we do not need new blockchains or coins in the privacy space. We need to continue to push the evolution of the coins that have adoption and community behind them that can continue to grow and benefit more people with privacy and also functionality. And I completely believe in that as well. I don't think we're there yet, but we have a lot more developers coming into the space on Ethereum, on Bitcoin, and other big blockchains that will continue to push not only privacy, but the block rates and how fast these networks are. And that's what's going to benefit the community over time the most. Deep Onion is a cool concept. I'm not recommending it by any sense, but it hasn't been tested like Monero and ZCash, and there's not as big a community behind it or adoption in marketplaces or other places to accept the coin in general. So you just end up having a coin that is sitting there with speculation instead of utility.
Yeah, basically, I think developers should solve problems that haven't been solved instead of trying to solve solved problems in new ways.
Completely agree with that. Awesome. Captain Derek, this was a great episode. I learned a lot myself, caught up on the space. Thank you for giving this information to the Crypto Starship community. I'm super excited for our next episode and to learn more.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome, Captain Derek. I will see you on the next episode.
See you then. The Crypto Starship is a production of Starship Media LLC. The contents of the show, including our videos, podcasts, and our website, are provided for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investing, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any financial, investing, trading, or life decisions based on our show. Understand that investing or trading in digital assets has potential risks involved. Before investing, make sure to do your own due diligence